Well, despite the worst weather of the week, nothing could put a dampener on the enthusiasm of a packed crowd here at the Woodland Hotel in Ellesmere Port as they look forward to the semi-finals and the final of the 1993 Bass Masters. And awaiting the winner, the famous Rose Bowl and a cheque for £7,500, the richest first prize in the game. Well, welcome back. It's not just wet and breezy here, it's jolly cold as well, but the standard of play really has been of the highest order, and as far as the bowls are concerned, the temperature is most definitely rising. Well, the semi-finals, Brian Duncan against David Copeland, a repeat of the 1990 semi-final, which Duncan won 21-20. From the bottom half, it's John Eccles and Roy Nicholson. But who on earth can stop Duncan? That's the big question here. Copeland's next to try and overcome all the great man's experience here at the Bass.
Well, it does make a big difference when you've played on the green before, and obviously the circumstances are different when you're on television, on a game on your own as well. Like, it certainly does make a big difference.
He's the top player and he's the man to beat, and everybody else, I mean, like everybody else, they're beatable, so just hopefully I play up to me top of my game today, and things go right, hopefully.
Well, obviously a lot to get through and a lot to look forward to this afternoon. And how about this for a starting point? Duncan and Copeland dead level at 10 across. The commentators Brian Brett and Hugh Johns.
31-14. Brian giving his bowl a little polish. Gets a good grip on it. These heavyweight wood bowls that he uses. Around about 212, they got lots of running in them.
More so than the bowls used by David. In fact, they are the same weight, but their composition tend, certainly in these conditions, not to run quite as well.
Slightly wider piece of land utilized for that second bowl on a dead length. David knows he's got to get that block back and get Duncan away from this piece of land.
Might have cut it here. He did a bit of damage there, didn't he?
Yes, I think he saved one.
Well, the measure.
Brian, I think, might feel that the measurers could be called into action here to some effect.
Measuring for second? Yeah, take out the first.
It's down to Peter Kilgallen and Andy Long. Andy still optimistically wearing his dark glasses, although the skies are grey, the rain is drizzling down.
Just all that straight, you're going above the jack.
Slack there.
This looks very slack.
Well, it'll tighten up on the other one, and that'll be an indication.
Hold it straight. Okay, gentlemen.
So that's tight on the blue one, and now slack on the grey, is it? No, it's just as tight. It's a close one.
Duncan, 2.
2. So 3 2s on the trot. 12-10. And I'm sure David Copeland is getting a little anxious now. Brian Duncan utilises this diagonal to some considerable effect.
He's bowling very well, Duncan, isn't he? A tremendous accuracy. His leading is good. The pressure is on Copeland now. He's got to stop the charge somehow. He's a good corner bowler. He's never been far away, Hugh. Needs a connection.
Needs to hit something.
Like that.
Yes. I think it's just about stayed close enough to be counting. Though that could change dramatically now as this one comes down. Yes, it has.
What a reply.
Well, I think it was Roy Armson who coined the phrase
How many times?
uncanny for some of the
I think it's only
balls
one.
that Brian delivers. And he's dead right.
Nobody would argue. I don't know who's lining up a strike here.
Yes, he is.
Difficult to get past the first short bowl.
Yes, I say. There you got it.
No, well away. Just the one.
Duncan, 1.
And it's beginning to look a little ominous for David Copeland now. He was 10-5 in front, and now he's 10-13 behind. Brian not using the full corner in this direction.
He's always said he'll play where he's happy on this green, Hugh, and he's keeping away from danger, and providing he leads well, then the plan will work.
That's far enough. Too far.
Yeah, well, it is a push-up, isn't it? Almost between the crowns, just looking at the two edges of the crowns. But past the jacket will run away.
That weight looks an improvement on the first one, but still out a distance. Now, David Copeland. This got a chance. That's got a chance. Yes.
Come on, Brian. Copeland, 1.
Well, at last, David Copeland has the chance to claw his way back into this game. Finger peg mark, straightening up at the back end. Just a fraction through on a length. Tighter line from Brian Duncan. Less running in the bowl. The end product, an absolute beauty.
He wants to look at the gap, so leaves the footer, better side of it all.
Well, an ordinary drawing bowl with just a little extra running would take that out.
He's after it. He's after the bowl.
Has he got it? Yes. And his own bowl's off, so we've only got one bowl left on the green until Brian Duncan now. He's going to put one back in again. Well, just about, I would say. What does David Copeland think? Brian Duncan's certainly convinced.
Duncan!
So now is David Copeland. And with the block back in his hands, no prizes for guessing where Brian Duncan's going. A lot of applause for that bowl, but in actual fact, if he hadn't made contact there,
Yes.
he'd have been at least 2 yards through.
Well, it was flying down there, but he is again in the approach, so David is really up against it at this end. Got to be far enough and make a hit if he can.
Just gone.
Brian Duncan just to play up and Nats past his first bowl. Well, it's counting 2.
Yard out, isn't it, for Copeland? He had a good line.
David's taken something off. Has he taken enough off?
Duncan, 1.
So another single to Brian Duncan. 15-11, he leads. The determination in the eyes of Brian Duncan, who's been there before. 4 times he has been to the final of the Bassmasters. 3 times he's won it. The loser of this game going away with £1,000 in his pocket. The winner with a chance to shoot for £7,500, the first prize. This has got chances. Yep. Now, what's the reply from the great man? It's just going to stay out. Well, well, well. The end is lost as far as Brian Duncan is concerned. David Copeland grimly wanting at least 2 out of this.
At least 2, Hugh. Yes. To get back in, but he's stuck at it. He's never bowled badly. Shouted 2 from a long way out. Good
yes.
line. Just legs.
That's the one.
Go on.
Counts for 2.
Could do a toppling. Oh, I think it's 2.
Yes.
2.
No argument. And that closes the gap again. 13-15. Now, will David Copeland persist with this round peg mark? Yes, he is. Over towards the covered enclosure, away to our left. Not quite the same piece of land, but look at the bend on that jack as it stops.
It almost stopped and ran on here.
Yes. Should see an enormous hook on the end of this bowl's travel if he found the land right. There it goes.
Just missed out.
This is a very, very tricky little mark.
This is going to run here.
Yep. And run right out. That's the problem. Not only have you got to get the land absolutely spot on, but the running's got to be right too.
Put that down a little more carefully.
Gently, gently, gently. Whoa. Brian's had a chance to see 3 bowls finish their run. Has he picked the right one here? Yes, he has.
Duncan, 1.
Well, we're seeing the full range of Brian Duncan's remarkable control of a bowl here in this semi-final. We've seen him bowl from 48, nearly 50 yards into the corners and produce bowls 6 inches from the target, less than 6 inches occasionally. And we've seen him using such delicacy to roll bowls only a short distance and wind up in counting positions. There's no shot in the game that he isn't the master of. Well bowled, David Copeland. With weight, he's after the bowl.
Might take his own. Now then, what a chance.
David composing himself. Gently now, gently, gently, gently. Oh, beautiful stuff. Oh yes, allows himself the luxury of a little smile. Entitled to 2. Well, 15-16 off the mat. David Copeland.
He's having a long think about this, Hugh. He doesn't want to go back to that tricky little mark because he was outgunned on it by Duncan, so he's going further towards the players' hut, towards possibly getting back into the trolley.
Now this is a finger peg mark, and it's a gentle turn down at the end. Started turning early, will drop underneath. Didn't take quite enough land. Brian on a fatter piece of territory.
He's got a lot of running into it. He's got to hit something or he's through. Just a slight misjudgment.
Well, David knows what correction to make, and it was really all about land rather than weight. That looks a bit better. Oh, it's heavy. It's heavy.
Pushed it, yeah. He needs a hit there. No.
Well, David Copeland thought a long time before setting this mark, but he's fooled himself. Duncan surely has now got the correction that will win the block back again. There's pegs right onto the button. And David Copeland very angry with himself. Yes, David Copeland realizes he made a bad mistake there. I think it's fair to say that if Brian Duncan goes on to win this now, David Copeland will look back on that end and say that's where it happened.
Yep, he will look back and say I blew it certainly then, but it's a bit much, you know. If you give Duncan, you're not only playing the green, you're playing the master, and if you give him 6 inches a foot, then he's going to be there. This time there's encouragement for David Copeland.
So David's got to fight his way back in again, and will it stop? Yes, but it's some distance from the little yellow target down there. Collision. Well, it was fortuitous for Brian Duncan, but it has opened the way up for David to either get closer, or better still, just get a little nudge on the kitty and bring it back.
Set a dolly for 2.
No.
Duncan 2.
Well, that's 2 ends on the trot where the great man has taken shots away. And Brian Duncan, now the bit between his teeth. Just 2 points away from yet another final in the Bassmasters. What a super lead. The pressure absolutely immense now on David Copeland. Giving that a chance, giving that a try. Go on. Oh, how unlucky can you be? Brian with the relaxed shoulders. Oh, too flavoured relaxed on that.
Hey, David Copeland will fancy this, you know. His first ball wasn't that far away. He's only one against him.
I thought he was when he was
can afford to play out the Duncan ball for 2. That's the game plan.
Is every chance here.
Jack.
Oh dear. Now this might be. Let's have a look and see.
Just one, I think.
It is just the one. Yep.
Duncan, 1.
Yep. That was very unlucky, that to have gone that distance and made a contact and got nothing out of it.
Yeah, his thinking was absolutely right. He's done well. He's hung on in there, but it's looking grim.
And bowling into his favourite corner, right down below us, where we get a sparrow's eye view of exactly what's going on. Brian Duncan looking for game. That might just be the one that takes him into the final of this year's Bassmasters, I wonder. David Copeland gritting his teeth. The line was good, the running was wrong.
Not give up. You've got to knock it 15 inches. What I say is a good 18 inches.
Well, Charlie Tarbrook saying you've got to knock it a good 18 inches. I think that is the one thing that Brian does not want to do.
Yes, just the opposite. So for safety, he'll try and steer away from it. He only needs one, but at this point he wants to turn the screw and stick another on it.
And the short bowl is a dreadful bowl for David Copeland, who has to come up and have a good hard look at this. Widens the angle, because he knows that this is the biggest bowl of the match so far. And if he doesn't make the right connection, if he doesn't get the land right, then he can walk into the player's hut, pick up his £1,000 and forget about the title. Now. No, that's not coming. That's not coming in. Stayed out. Out goes the ball, and out goes David Copeland. The master receives the applause of the crowd here at Ellesmere Port. Brian Duncan through once again to the final of the Bassmasters, and looking as though he's got the form to go all the way to yet another title. 21-15, his final score.
Well then, Brian.
It was a hard game, and I think he got a good start, about 10-5, something like that, and I was struggling a bit really, and he was playing well and just turned round.
You seem to be just a little bit at odds with yourself early on.
Well, I did really, because I wasn't. I think David played 1 or 2 bad leads, and I didn't lick them really, and I was just getting a bit mad really, because I thought, well, I should be getting in there really.
That little round peg mark, well, virtually from here to just over the crown, was causing you 1 or 2 problems. Clearly, that was his tactic to keep you away from the corners.
Well, that's right, and the mark he was going on, it's very difficult really, because once you get over the top, it runs a lot, and but yet, having said that, you've got to push them right up together, and it's difficult to get a length really.
And when you made the final again, that's all that matters at this stage, isn't it?
Well, it does. I mean, the end result that matters really, and I think from the second half of the game I played all right, so just hope I can carry on with that.
Who was your tip for semi-final 2 briefly, Roy Nicholson or John Eccles?
Well, they both played well. I wouldn't like to tip anybody really, because Roy's, I think 2 or 3 games Roy's played, he's been like more or less all but up, and they've only been like 10 or 11, and they've come back at him. But John Eccles has had a hard game with Nicholson, so really I think it's a very even game.
That's next, and it follows the break. Welcome back. So Brian Duncan, the favourite, the holder, he's through. But what about the second semi-final? John Eccles against Yorkshire's Roy Nicholson. Not much in it, but the bookies regard Eccles as, well, just about the favourite, but it's marginal.
A lot of the games have gone with the toss. Whoever wins the toss, they seem to get a 6 or 7 break, and all the games have gone like that. So you just got to get there early on, plug away. You get a good lead, you got to hold on.
I'm not frightened of anybody, you know. I just take it as it comes. If I play well and win, okay. If I play well and get beat, so what?
I think maybe Lady Luck's on your side this time around.
Well, the girlfriend says you're keeping her fingers crossed, so hopefully.
You don't give much away on your expressions on your face, do you?
Oh, I never gave much away, no. I'm just a dour Yorkshireman.
Well, as we join it, the odds have changed significantly. Roy Nicholson, strong favourite now, 18-9. John Bancroft with Brian and Roy.
Untitled Chapter. 20 ends of tight, accurate, tense play, which has seen the Yorkshireman move clear from 11-8, 4 successive singles. Before one back by Eccles, and away he went again with a 2 and a 1, and it's all been done, Roy Armson, with leading like this.
Yes, I don't think I've seen Roy Nicholson play like this for some years. He's been leading superbly all through the game, but John Eccles managed to beat him on that occasion. Still about a yard off, and here's Roy trying to put 2 yards in his first ball.
Well, he thinks he can negotiate a way around. He's played this green particularly well. Oh, he's taken to the green as though it was a homester. 18-9 the advantage, and Eccles really has played very well. He's played much better than 9 suggests. He's trying to find a way through here, do a promotion, save.
Eccles, 1.
Well, he gets the 1 thanks to that earlier promotion, so he's into double figures. 10-18.
Come for it if you leave it there, Charles. Come for it if you need it.
Referee Mary Ashcroft, and John Eccles Roy has got to try and break up the relentless march of Roy Nicholson by finding totally different land.
Yes, John's now playing thumb peg just below our commentary position, playing about 40 yards, and it's a complete change from the type of game he's played before. He's generally played a lot less than this, but he's in desperate straits, and he's got to do something like this to break Roy Nicholson's length.
Well, nobody, Roy, is going to know better than our guest in the commentary box, John Bancroft, who we don't want to remind him too much, who went out. But John is the Bassmaster from 86 and 91, and Roy Nicholson has taken to this green, hasn't he, John?
Yes, there you go. He's played another good ball. He's just getting the length everywhere he goes, Roy, at the moment. He's playing with lots of confidence, and I'm sure he feels he can win this game.
It's an inch off.
Yes, and
You're just over
John Eccles, you know, John, you'll know well, of course. He's not bowled badly, has he? But he's fighting to stay in there.
Yes, he's played a good game, really, but like Roy did with myself, he's just leading so well. He's putting John under a lot of pressure to play reaching balls with his lead, and that's just not John's natural game. He's forcing John now to come in the corners, as Roy said. Again, that again isn't his natural game. So
Nicholson.
Roy's really dictating the play here.
He's in command. He's got another single there. He's elected not to play that second delivery, because his first is right on the jack, and I don't know, there was a little bit of danger, I suppose, so he just settles for the one, knowing he's an end away from a win. He's an end away from a place in the final. 19-10. Where's your money, Roy Armstrong? I know where the Yorkshire money is.
Oh yes, he's been superb, hasn't he? And I'm sure that the people that have come over from Meltham and Halifax and places like that have all had a little taste of the odds on Roy Nicholson, because in all of his games he's been second favourite.
Yes, I don't know why that should be. Maybe because he's not been here since 1982 when he first appeared in the Bass, but he got through to the semi-final where he lost to Noel Burrows. Those are in the days of 16 instead of the 32 qualifiers that we now have. But they've both left a little daylight there. He's put the jack in a very difficult position to get at. Is he any better with this? Up and over, off the bank. Peg now, length right. Better, great correction. That's the measure of his game. If he's slightly off, with his lead, he corrects. 19-10 against this man, John Eccles, from Milnrow in Lancashire.
He's wondering whether to strike or play through now, Brian.
Well, just a running bowl, isn't it? Controlled weight. He's going to peg away now. It'll swing away and out.
Nicholson. One.
Just the single. Moving closer and closer to the final of the 93 Bassmasters. 2010. This has been as impressive, John Bancroft, a display I think we've seen in all the tournaments so far.
Yes, he's played an excellent game, and I don't think there's any doubt where he's going to send the jack now. It's thumb peg down towards this side of the green, where it's a little bit downhill finish and it's quite quick. It's difficult to get a length, and Roy's playing with a slightly stronger pair of bowls than most of the other players in the competition, I think, and he's just allowing his bowls just to work down to the jack. John will be having to play a tighter line, and obviously running the risk of just going underneath and cutting across.
But he's left a bit of daylight here, because if they are keener, they're just going to pull away a shade there, while his length is, as usual, as good as ever. He was just not right with his line, and John can't follow him exactly because of the difference in the bowls, but he has, you know, and he's gone even further away. So this, what are we into? The 24th end, 20-10. The massive Nicholson advantage. Looking for one to put him into the final. 46-year-old Yorkshireman. Oh, and he's gone a mile off the other way, but he's still holding the one he needs. John Eccles needs to count to stay in the Bass. Otherwise, it's goodbye. Otherwise, it's curtains. Is this far enough? Can it run? Can it peg? It doesn't look alike. No! He's missed out, and out he goes in the semi-final stage. John Eccles, this man, the winner, the very consistent, the very impressive, the very sporting Roy Nicholson, a fine winner, 21-10.
So there we go, the final lineup, the Bassmasters 1993. Brian Duncan representing the Red Rose County, Roy Nicholson representing the White Rose of Yorkshire. But what are the prospects and the playing conditions? Now, Roy and John Bancroft have scuttled downstairs to give us their expert opinions.
We're down here on the green, and it is quite soft today. There's been a lot of overnight rain, and as you can see, it's raining now, and certainly it's definitely affected the condition of the green. I think, John, you would agree with that?
Definitely. The previous 3 days it's been running quite nicely, but like I say, with all the overnight rain and like you say, this continuing rain, it's making it a little bit heavier now.
Yes, I'm not quite sure what effect this will have on the two finalists. I think of the two, probably Brian will cope with the conditions a little better. And Brian, of course, has been playing finger peg right up into that corner over there, whereas Roy Nicholson has been playing just over there in that position there. John, I think, you know, when you were playing Roy, he made it a bit difficult.
Yes, he's played the game the right way. He's put the jack on the top of the hills, put them near to the jack, and made his opponent, in my case, reach the block, and then you've got the tendency to keep passing the jack, and you're struggling for a length all the time. And obviously the longer you go without the jack, the worse it gets.
Yeah, obviously Brian is going to be the favourite, but the way Roy's played, you would think it's going to be quite a good match.
If Roy can play the same way as he's played against myself and John in the semi-final, I'm sure he's got a very good chance. The game's going to revolve around Roy's leading. That's the be-all and end-all for me. If Roy can lead like he's led in the previous 2 games, he's at every chance.
Good, thanks very much, John.
Well, thanks to Roy and John there. Just looking around here, the skies seem to be clearing a wee bit. You never know, we could get a rain-free final yet. Join us after the break for the big one. Gentlemen, here at the Woodland Hotel in Ellesmere Port, and all of you at home, welcome back. It's time for the final of the 1993 Bassmasters. So let's meet the 2 finalists. From the top half of the draw, well, put it this way, he's been here before. The holder, 3 times the Bassmaster, the game's number 1, the main man, Brian Duncan. Now from the bottom half of the draw, a man who was last here, ladies and gentlemen, in 1982. He reached the semi-finals then. We haven't seen him since. Yorkshire's number 1, the first Yorkshireman ever to reach the final. Would you welcome Roy Nicholson? Brian? It's becoming a habit, this, isn't it?
It's a very nice habit, isn't it? No, I mean, it's a great week, and obviously we all want to get to the final and hopefully win it.
And what about the green? For all the folks who are watching, what's the professionals' view of this green here at the Woodland?
Well, I think over the years the green has certainly improved, and I think it's in perfect condition this year.
Lovely. Move across and have a quick word with Roy. I mean, 1982, Roy. What don't you like it here or something? I mean, it's been so long since you've come back.
I liked it the last 4 days, yes. Hope to be back next year as well.
Okay, well, of course, if you win, Brian wins. Whoever wins, automatic qualification for the Bassmasters in 1994. Right, I'm going to toss a coin if I can find one. Roy, heads or tails? Heads it is. Heads it is, Brian. Roy, you've got the block. The best of luck to you. Best of luck, Brian. Must be the only fella to get a quid off Brian Duncan here at the Woodland Hotel. He doesn't need the money. For all of you at home, commentary by Hugh Johns.
Thank you, Elton. And this then is the moment. The whole week culminating now under slightly greyish skies, but a busy, happy atmosphere around this green. The 2 finalists step out there, and it's Roy Nicholson, having won the toss, that sets the first mark. With me, Brian Brett. Any projections as to the sort of mark that Roy Nicholson is likely to look for?
I think we've just seen it, haven't we, from this first turn, winning the toss, all important to Hugh. I think he'll try and settle here. But how long before Duncan, if necessary, resorts to the heavy ammunition and fires?
£7,500 for the winner. The biggest prize, biggest single winning prize in Crown Bowls, in a tournament which, stretching over 4 days, has over £20,000 in prizes. Brian Duncan then. Nicholson holding the single and out. So Roy Nick, the first one to get on the scoreboard. Brian Duncan, the master. There's no question of that. This man has been everywhere. He's done it all. Been here in, what, 4 finals and won 3 of them. And this is the way he got there. The match against Copeland, he stuttered a bit. Skidmore gave him a couple of scares, the young flat and crown bowler, but Duncan's uncanny ability to find the right bowl at the right moment has brought him this far into the final.
Out on the green, we've had a mistake already by Nicholson in his anxiety to keep the game short. He actually cut across the green and sent the jack off. Duncan has gone for length. He's had the jack. Nicholson plays to it.
winding up short there. That's a bit of a surprise. Well, this mark set by Roy Nicholson, in fact, finding both of them a little wayward. But not for long. Brian Duncan makes the correction, the second bowl, and he's in. Roy Nicholson, Halifax, carpet display assistant. Started by his father when he was just 11 years old. And his first championship, the Brighouse Charity Merit, when he was 16, and since then, so many tremendous Halifax Merit times four times, Yorkshire Champion of Champions twice, and of course the Waterloo, the champion Waterloo player as well. 81, his best season, I suppose, when he was bowler of the year. On that occasion, leaving Brian Duncan in second place, which is exactly what he would like to do here. Brian then on his favourite mark on this Woodland Hotel green, and that's why, holding two. Brian Duncan then, on just the third end of this final, picks up two. And this the sort of mark that he exploited to some reasonably good effect against David Copeland in the semi-final. Deep into the corner below us, not quite so far going into the other corner on the diagonal. Slightly uphill finish, and he climbed the hill to perfection. Look at that. I mean, that's 48, nearly 50 yards away, Brian.
Easily, and the problem for Roy Nicholson is that there is a feeling he has slightly keener bowls, a sharper bias, and can't afford to follow Duncan's line. But the pattern set already, Hugh, the longer mark set by Duncan, corner to corner. Nicholson, he's no slouch in the corners, but desperate to shorten this game.
Won't be all that unhappy about where he's placed that bowl, because it's very much in the road. And it's not close enough to be counting two. He's got past the front one, and he's missed the one he was after. So looks only like a single. Brian Duncan's record in this Bassmasters, so brilliant.
He's just having a word there, Hugh, with the referee, who is Terry Ashcroft from Warrington, and his wife Mary, with Charlie Tarbrook with the measurers.
It's a long look, and he's happy enough with just one. Duncan, the renowned corner king in Crown Bowls, but he hasn't gone as deep this time. Trying to vary the distance to give extra little problems for Roy Nicholson to solve. Run a bit, trickle, trickle, trickle. Now Roy Nick Road is good. The weight is just about perfect. Won it on a length and can't be more than 8-9 inches away from the target. Lovely bowl. Brian going underneath. Can he now draw back? Peg back a bit. Just gone out. Roy Nick also well underneath and hasn't got the running. That's not going to arrive. So, a single, Roy Nicholson. Oh, there's the favourite spectator. Built a little shelf at the bottom of his garden. It looks as though he has his grandson down there with him this afternoon. He gets a close-up view of the tournament every year here. We're always delighted to see him. Roy Nicholson then. Over towards the stand on the north side of the Woodland Hotel Green. That's a good lead. That is a fine lead. And this is what Roy Nicholson has got to do. He's got to get that lead bowl in there.
Yes, he did it in his two previous games, didn't he, against John Bancroft and John Eccles. Absolutely identical marks, and he's in a position to get back and shorten it to about 30 yards.
That's two beautiful bowls, but now Brian is about to strike.
Watch your feet, man.
Here he comes. The line is good. Well, if you want to see a master at work, take a look at Brian Duncan. Two down. Two down, desperately down. Tight bowls, and then a strike like that. What about that, Brian?
Quite a marvellous strike and a wonderful result for him. Clips one, runs on, takes the jack, clips the other on the way. Bit of cheek that to count.
Oh, what quality. Well, it's 5-2 now to Brian Duncan. And the chance to get back into his favourite corner down below us. Tell you what, that last end may have unsettled Roy Nicholson just a fraction.
Always the danger for Nicholson is that he's going to be within striking distance of Duncan, and there's nobody more lethal with the firepower than Brian Duncan, if necessary.
Big yard.
Yes, we were saying that Roy Nicholson has to lead well to his own block. Couldn't have done it better on that end.
Knowing that it might not even be good enough here.
He's in with another good one. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Might just have
a little downswell behind the block, which carried that bowl through. Nicholson watching that bowl arrive, knowing that he's now got something to beat. Brian Duncan, 8-10 inches off. And Nicholson's looking good. He's looking excellent. And has he pushed that block enough? No, I don't think so. I'm just going to think that he might have pushed the block enough to pick up two.
Needs a long look at this one, doesn't he? The one at the back is now looking into it. Well worth a measure. Referee Terry Ashcroft calling there for a measure, and he'll find his good lady arriving on the scene. Mary Ashcroft and Charlie Tarbrook just approaching.
And I think Alison Mann has a bloke with a fair knowledge of the game of Crown Green in Arthur Murray.
Well, Arthur, you've played here 3 or 4 times. I've seen you applauding away. You're very appreciative. It's a tremendous game, isn't it?
Oh yes,
It looks like being a great final, really. I mean, Brian just pulled out a Wonderwood then, didn't he, to rob Nick of two what we thought was on the card. But,
Nicholson,
you know, this young fella, Brian Duncan, he keeps doing it, doesn't he? We all keep saying Brian's 12 months older, he's not going to do it this year, but here he is once again. Yeah, looks like being a great final.
I think the key to it is not to let him get away, and that's exactly what Roy Nichols has been able to do, just keep in touch with him.
That's right, it's early days yet, we're only, what is it, 5-3 for Brian, Roy's block, so early days, anything can happen yet.
Anything can happen yet, indeed. Hugh.
Thank you, Alistair. The block, so important to Roy Nicholson. He's got to hang on to it for 3-4 ends in a row. He hasn't led very well to this one. And Brian Duncan has beaten him.
Considered turning over for a moment, but thinks there's still room around the Duncan bowl. Looks awfully difficult to get past it. Trying, isn't it? Just wobbled on the approach, looking for pegging.
Now, peg. May have won it on a length. Yep. Always with the second bowl, you're looking for a Duncan correction, but he got it wrong this time. Well, if he has won it, I think Roy Nicholson will be grateful.
Nicholson won!
Yes, he got a single out of it. Wasn't a particularly good bowl, but as long as they can't, who cares?
And he's exactly where he wanted to be, Hugh. He's negotiated a few ends just to try to get to this position. This is where he won his last two games. Typical, difficult, tricky, niggling sort of mark, 30 yards. And with these keen bowls, they will peg possibly more than Duncan's.
And of course we've got a little bit of drizzle coming down, putting a slight dampener on this green, which will affect the running. That won't peg back from there. Roy Nicholson, imperturbable, has exactly the right temperament for the big occasion. Tidy too.
Duncan weighing it up, Hugh. We're going to see a strike again. Yes.
It's a lovely target, isn't it?
Watch your feet again.
Two in a row. Contact. Yeah, contact on the jack. Straight out. Well fielded in the slips by referee Terry Ashcroft. So, no score on that one. Start all over again.
Not much alternative here, had he? No real choice. Could have got the bowls, but in fact he got the jack, so he'll be happy. Kills the end.
And the game restarts with the footer a metre from where the block went off the green. Yes, this was the mark that Roy Nicholson had a run of, what was it, something like 13 successive shots, Brian? I seem to remember that it was just backwards and forwards.
He built 13. What? Yeah, he built 17-7 against John Bancroft, who then came back to 2017.
Yep, Brian is in there again. Roy Nicholson, dredging down for all the experience he's accumulated over the years, and just goes whistling past. Odds on Brian Duncan picking up two here.
Duncan, 2.
7-4. Brian Duncan in front. Brian, only one failure in a Bassmasters final. That to Robert Crawshaw 1985. 84, he beat Peter Richardson. 1990, Kevin Shaw. And then last year, Tommy Johnston.
Crawshaw beat him by going all over the green here, do you remember? He never settled anywhere, but you know, you've got to get the jack, you've got to hold it, and you've got to outplay the master on different marks.
And of course, Brian Duncan has had 8 years of winning bowls since then to hone his talents to such a fine edge.
He was 4-1 favourite when we started, even before a bowl was sent. Unbackable after a game today.
Trickling on and on and on and on and on. When you think the bowler's stopped, there's still 4 or 5 inches of running left in it when Brian Duncan has released it. His big wooden bowls run so well. Chance, chance. Unlucky, Roy. 2 more for Brian Duncan.
Looks like 2, Roy. Duncan, 2!
Yeah, Roy doesn't argue when he comes down. So 5, the gap. Brian has pushed this block about a yard or so further than the last time he went in that direction, but look at that for a lead. I mean, that's got to be nearly 50 yards away.
48, 49 yards. The footer is a bit in from the edge. Nicholson under pressure, reaching out, stretching his game. Be a nice sight. It depends where this one finishes, doesn't it? Could be a fair target.
Waving it in, needs to peg it into the peg at least a yard on the end of its travel.
Is he too low? Can he peg up? They are keener bowls.
Don't think it's going up the hill, is it? No.
Duncan,
hadn't got the legs.
2!
Well, that's 3 ends of bowls and 6 more added to Brian Duncan's score. 3 doubles on the trot. Heady stuff.
Again, he's looking for the corner. I wonder how far he'd dare push it. He told me he felt this was an area that was a bit heavy, and he felt he'd like a little more running in the green. I'm not so sure about that. I think he revels in these conditions.
Well, the way the man plays, you'd find it difficult to create some conditions that he couldn't play in. Look at that. I mean, from that distance. Remember that the bowl will not run straight if it's on an absolutely flat surface. And this green is far from it. That's a good one from Roy. Well done. Yes, I would think so. Yep. Terry Ashcroft fancies it. Mind you, there can be little more than a couple of millimetres in the advantage that Roy Nicholson has. But for how long? Is that coming back? No.
They're calling for him to try for 2, but he's coming the safe way. He's turned over, he's coming the other way in.
And as this bowl from Roy Nicholson comes in, Roy Armstrong down at the green side, you've got a close-up view of it. What are the conditions like down there now?
Down here by the green, it's raining quite heavily now. And of course Roy Nicholson here has just beaten one of Brian Duncan's best leads. I feel he's going to go back to his mark that he's been so successful on in the competition so far. In fact, he's only ever used 2 marks in the whole of the competition, but he's having a good look round now. No, he's going to change. He's going to play thumb peg, not up in the channel where he's been before, going up towards the north stand about 35 yards, but this is Roy's game. He usually plays a very good lead on marks like this.
So this lead, as Roy Armstrong has just said, is important, and Roy Nick got it wrong. That was the chance to put some pressure on the great man. Now, has Brian found it? No, he hasn't. He is closer, though. What I always find about watching Brian Duncan, Brian Brett, is that he has this art of being able to find exactly the right correction. Now, Roy Nicholson's found a good correction there. Be interesting to see how Brian Duncan corrects.
He doesn't go up and have a look. He's got such a good eye. He's a reader of greens. But he's played for so long at the top level. He knows instinctively, Hugh, which bowl to play. The running bowl here to try and either take the jack or play out.
I
just got a wick. He needed it.
There. A feeling that might have just taken a nasty little niggle off a leaf or something on the green. Maybe a worm cast or a worm who stuck his nose up at that moment.
Well, they did sweep the green just before the final started because the leaves have been falling in a couple of corners. So to get the best possible conditions, they gave it just a precautionary sweep, but it really is in magnificent condition. Nicholson back on his mark.
I think the drizzle may be easing a bit now, but the pressure again building up by Roy Nick on Brian Duncan with that excellent lead bowl. Duncan's response. Bang on the button again. Unlucky, didn't stay with the block. Very unlucky indeed.
You've only got to turn it over.
Well, he's unlikely to turn it over since it's sat down. It's going to take something of a connection to turn over the Duncan ball, or either. They're both sat down.
Yeah.
Never looked right.
I think give Roy Nick his due. He intended to drop that in the road, but he got it wrong.
He's now exposed to a running bowl from Duncan, controlled weight. Play out the grey one, that is the plan.
Got a chance. Oh, unlucky.
Nicholson won.
Well, that's 3 chalks in a row for Roy Nicholson, singles. He has got to hang on to this block now and make it work for him.
Yeah, if you think of players Duncan has met, and not only in this tournament, many others here, I think in this sort of situation they would buckle because he is playing top form at the moment. His corner play is excellent, but there is no question of Nicholson buckling. We've got a real bath of the roses, the red rose, the white rose in action here.
Yeah, I think we were saying earlier that it was back in, what, 1981 that Roy Nick was the top man in Crown Bowls.
One or two have had it, haven't they? John Bancroft, Stan Frith, but that was certainly his year, the year when the Waterloo, yeah. And then came into the Bassmasters. He's quite easily the top Yorkshire bowler these days.
Brian coming in on down the top side. Run a bit more. Oh, very, very tidy. So the block snatched from Roy Nicholson's grasp. And Brian Duncan back in charge again. And straight into this, his favourite corner. I would suspect that he knows every single blade of grass in this little patch down here.
Yes, this is the green he condemned the first couple of years he played in the Bass and said it should be a car park, but no longer. Well, he's won a few bob on here, hasn't it?
I was going to say, it's got to be well over 25,000 he's picked up.
You could buy it.
Yeah. Stay, sit. That's the one.
I'm not sure that Brian Duncan got the jack quite where he wanted it, you know. I think he was looking for length and pushed it out.
About a yard too far,
Yeah.
I think, yeah. That's going to win it. Yep.
You're one down, Roy.
Well, a good pegging balls, but he's asking a lot.
Won't come back from there. A single. Brian Duncan. 16 ends completed. And already
Duncan, one.
he's only 8 away from the finishing line. 13-7 his advantage. Good run.
Fine delivery from Duncan, but the end result, 4 feet through, and the land and the line was absolutely spot on.
Oh, Roy left that one on the mat. Duncan needing to take, what, a yard and a bit off his first bowl.
Get up over the hill, that's the thing there, isn't it? He looks absolutely disgusted, but at the moment it's won it.
Well, it's there to be grabbed. Roy Nicholson taking. It's not going to arrive. Oh, did it, yeah. Roy Nick in deep trouble. Oh, down below me with Roy Thompson is Nick Skidmore, who has first-hand experience of Brian Duncan. I wonder what he feels about this situation.
Nick, you've played Brian Duncan in the quarter-final and suffered at his hands.
Anyone?
What's your assessment of the final so far?
Well, Roy got a few behind, just like me, but he clawed his way back into it at 11-7. Just lost an end back down in these corners. Brian's back in his corners now, so Roy's up against it, I think.
The rain's stopped now. Would you think the green's gone heavier, or do you think it's sticking on the top and a little bit greasy?
It stopped a little bit earlier. Started raining again, it stopped again, so pace is changing all the time. Hard to play without the jack.
And what's your assessment of the great Brian Duncan that during the course of this week?
I think he's played well all week. He's played these corners well. And Roy's got to get in pretty quick, I think, before it's too late.
Good, fine. Thank you, Nick.
Well, the sum total of the score at the moment is exactly 21, which is what Brian Duncan is after. He leads 14-7. The measurers produced a single on that last end. And unless Roy Nicholson can get Duncan out of these corners, where in all conscience Roy Nicholson hasn't really bowled badly, it's just that Brian Duncan has always bowled better.
I think this particular corner has been a one-bowl corner, hasn't it? They've improved on each other's leads.
Well, Brian was fortunate that Roy Nicholson didn't punish him for a bad lead, but that's a bad second. That is very, very unusual. That must hearten all the crown bowlers watching this. Even the great ones can fall down.
Oh, for how long? That's the mark on the man now, Nicholson.
Creep past, nice. Roy, don't hit it. Oh, dear.
Have a look at these, and there's a suggestion there might be a measure on.
Yeah, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yes. Thanks, please.
Begs, please. So, Mary Ashcroft and Charlie Tarbrook come out to sort this one out. Incredible, really, whenever the measurers are called for, it's always the furthest point from where they were sitting.
Yes, let's hope they don't have to go back and change the measures as happened earlier in the tournament. No, Charlie's got the right stuff there. Take it from the jack to the bowl. Taking the blue bowl first. Swing around and see if that now slackens or if there's daylight.
Just tighten up a fraction on that, please.
I'm going to tighten up again now and go back to try the Duncan bowl.
Touch in here. Okay, fine that.
It is tight.
It's very tight. It's just on the grey.
Grey ball was in.
Nicholson won!
Well, there couldn't have been much in that. Now, Roy Nicholson. Can you hang on to this block for 5 or 6 consecutive ends? Close the gap. It's 6 at the moment. He's 8-14 down. It's not a bad lead at all. He's satisfied with that. And that's going to be adjacent. Oh, just straightened up back end. That's another one.
He will now decide whether there's room topside to come off the bank or whether to turn over and run.
I don't think there's any way he can peg in there.
He's going to have a go. He's going to turn over and try and take the jack.
The cannon.
But where will the jack flirt?
He's got the jack.
But where will it flirt?
Well, I blow.
That was always the danger.
Back up the green, and it's 2. It was 2, and it's still 2 to Roy Nicholson.
You know, looking at that hue, it was always on, wasn't it? The lie of the land. Flat green bowlers would have read that rather quickly and thought, my goodness, if there's a connection here, it's only going to go one way.
Yes, he'd been better off if he'd actually hit the bowl instead of the jack.
Well, it's 2 to Nicholson and land, and the jack to go where he wants.
Well, it's on a length from Roy Nick, but it's a little wide. That'll run through and out. Now, Roy Nicholson getting good support from this crowd. Greatly the underdog, of course, and they'd like to see him come back into this game. Still a little bit of running left. I'd say that has not beaten the first blue bowl, so I think he's only holding the 1, and that's gone well out. It's just a question as to whether it's 1 or whether it's 2. Roy Nick will take his winning bowl out.
Nicholson won!
No, it's just the 1 for Roy Nicholson. He closes the gap, 11-14. And with Alistair Mann, our favourite supporter, at the bottom of his garden, what does he think about the game so far, Ali?
Well, one of the best vantage points at Ellesmere Port. Gentleman by the name of Joseph Bailey. You've seen all 11 finals, including this one, haven't you?
Yes, yes.
How are you enjoying this one?
Very much. Very much. I've enjoyed them all.
Brian Duncan winning again. That's the usual story, isn't it?
The same story.
You get up first thing in the morning, watch till last thing at night, every game?
Not every game, no. Not every game. Most of them. I usually pick out the best games.
Maybe you should start offering front row seats, maybe?
Yes, good idea.
You seem to have built a little ladder for yourself here. You thought of planning this thing here?
No, I've just, you know,
He's stepped just about right, so it's very handy.
I noticed one of the neighbours has joined you here just to get an excellent vantage point.
The boy from next door.
Well, I don't know whether or not it's the best vantage point, but it's pretty close too. Back to you up there in the gods.
Yes, from a view over the fence to a view from the chilly regions up here, high above the green. And we're looking down on Brian Duncan.
Nicholson, whoa!
No. Nicholson picking up another single. And suddenly there is a sign of a fight back here by Roy Nicholson. Picked up 5 chalks in a row. Come back from 8-14 down. Just 2 behind at the moment, 12-14. And judging by the murmurings in the crowd, Roy Nicholson's got good support here, Brian Brett.
A lot of people here from West Yorkshire in particular, from Murfield and from Huddersfield areas, and they've been here most of the week enjoying what they see, and of course looking for the first Yorkshireman to win the Bassmasters.
And they give that one a real rousing reception.
They do, but I think that is a little bit vulnerable, I must say. If Duncan's put enough running in.
No, he's left it short. There's still some running in it, but not enough to get all the way.
It's a nuisance too, it might just be in the way.
Roy will desperately hope to steer clear of it and drop in the road.
Well, he wanted a second one counting, really. It's there. If he wants to take it off, he thinks he can beat it. Oh no, it's a running bowl.
He's after the bowl.
Doing it the hard
that
way.
Was the other way of going in.
Almost.
And it ran out.
Nicholson won.
Well. That massive lead has been shot back. Roy Nicholson is alive and well and fighting here at Ellesmere Port. Only 1 down now. Now there'll be an enormous roar if this one lands up on the target. Well, it's on a length, but the line wasn't as good as he would hope. Brian Duncan. He's underneath. By how much? Oh, enough not to count. Roy Nicholson pushed that a long way out. Can it possibly peg back from there? No way. It's only one. Wide open for Brian Duncan to grab it back. Will it run out? Oh, yes, it has.
Nicholson! Whoa!
An untidy end, but listen to those cheers. Those cheers for the underdog, Roy Nicholson, who's come back from a dreadful position to level the scores. 14 across after 23 ends.
Just a question, Hugh, of how long he can go on getting away with this. The last couple of ends, his leads have not been as he wanted, but having said that, Duncan's failed to beat them. You just get the feeling that Duncan's going to hit his form again and cut away for the corners.
Well, I remember in the games, particularly against Morris and Skidmore, and to an extent against Copeland, that Brian did lose just a fraction halfway through those games, but then slipped into an overdrive gear and ran away with it.
Yeah, there's been a mid-game lull. While they generally only play 1 game, of course, it's a day. It's now about tension. It's now a couple, maybe 3, and it's about nerves and realising there's £7,500 up for grabs here.
Yes, and I'm afraid that on this end it looks very much as though Roy Nicholson lost his nerve.
Yes.
And it could cost him the match. But that comes inside. Yep. Counts 2.
Duncan, 2.
So for Roy Nicholson, who had battled his way so bravely back into the game, one very loose end, and 2 chalks go down the Swanee, and he's 16-14 behind now.
This will be the mark of the man if he gets a good lead up.
Finger peg up over the
Not
top.
Right. Not
Didn't
right.
peg back for him. Once again, Roy Nicholson grits his teeth.
Looks narrow to me, Hugh.
It is. It is. It is.
But he's got a keener bias. It might just hold its line. He's doing, you know, different road end.
35 years of bowling experience there. "37 years of bowling experience here." Won it.
Yeah.
Well, Roy's line is desperately tight there. Is he trying to promote his own bowl? If he gets a whack on it, he could. Oh, it hasn't got any legs left when he got there.
Duncan, 1.
And of course, Brian is now in the perfect position to come clattering across some 45, 46 yards down into the little patch below us. And that's well nigh perfect. The art of the game as much about delivering the block to exactly where you want it as sending the bowl after it. He's a yard or so shorter than he has been in this corner now, Brian. Not getting the run on behind
That's right. I think he may well now go for safer areas where he's happy. The footer is in a fair bit, but Nicholson is responding. He had a great road end, just given up on him. Brian needs to have a look at this because it looks as though...
Got to knock you the foot, Brian.
Yeah, that's the danger. Any connection on that could promote it in.
That was the remark of a
Yorkshireman, I think.
Supporter. Do your best, he said.
He's turned over. He's coming the other way. Thumb peg. Safety. But he's got to find it, Hugh. He doesn't know the way in. He's just exploring it. He's had a look at it. It may just be his length that lets him down.
Well, Roy Nicholson, chance of skating past his front bowl and getting it, or hitting his front bowl.
I don't want to hit Duncan's, does he? No, he won't. He's away from that.
Needs another bit more, needs another bit more.
Duncan, what?
No. Well, now it's looking really serious.
This has been a bit tighter than the other finals that Duncan has won, hasn't it? He beat Peter Richardson 9, he beat Kevin Shaw that runaway 4, and then Tommy Johnstone last year 12. So at least Roy Nicholson is 2 chalks better than them, and he's still in there.
Well, he's requiring just 3 now. That won't pay back. And he slaps his thigh in some mild anger. Roy Nicholson. There's a stillness around the green now. Now the murmurs come up as this bowl arrives, and the cheers sing out for Roy Nicholson. Brian Duncan. Such a lot of correction to do on his first bowl. Gone out. Now, Roy Nicholson, can you remember exactly how you delivered your first one? Doesn't look like it. Nope. Only one. One for Roy Nicholson. But he's got that block back. I wonder what he's going to do with it. Have you got any ideas down there at ringside, Roy Upson?
Well, I think that Roy Nicholson will come thumb peg. I think he'll come back down to the mark that he's been used to before. And I'm wrong. He's changing it, actually. He's going somewhere completely different. He's going finger peg, finishing it right into the Trousdale trolley. This is a new ploy for Roy Nicholson, and it could very well work. He's exploited the other parts of the green, and here he is now. It's about 35 yards, coming off the top of the hill, downhill now, coming up to the jack. It's a very good lead. He's set Brian a big problem with this. Let's see if he can pick up the speed from Roy's bowl. Coming off the top of the hill now, it's certain to reach. Will it connect? I think it's just gone through the gap. Chance of two, but very dangerous. Roy's playing short here. Any connection on that jack could take it to Brian's bowl. It's all on for Brian now to play 2-3.
Yeah, no doubt, Brian.
Yes, well, from up here we can probably look down a little more clearly at the head, and Duncan looks to be on track, but no, didn't get the weight right.
All right, Roy. Duncan won.
A single to Brian Duncan. He is now within touching distance both of the trophy and that very tempting cheque for £7,500. Needs two. Again, the green is... People around the green are quiet. A ripple of applause. What can Roy Nicholson draw from this crowd in the way of inspiration? Needs to hit something. Oh, desperately needed to hit the block.
He might have just turned it to Duncan, of course, because he went in that way on the peg.
Brian waving his ball up that slope. It's an uphill finish there. Roy Nicholson. That's the one. And again, the applause greets Roy Nicholson as he strides up to the covered enclosure at the far end. And the Yorkshire fans give him the applause he deserves, as he desperately now hopes to stay in touch.
Changed, hasn't he, Hugh? He's not having a double at the trolley again. It didn't work. Knows Duncan is an end away from a possible win, and tries to settle maybe on his 30-32 yard mark if he can lead.
He must have it in his mind that if he can hang on to this block for 3 consecutive ends, he can win. Just about a bowl through on a length.
Yes, it wasn't the lead he wanted.
No, not tight enough. That's going to be close. And that'll take some beating. Roy Nicholson's only got one bowl to beat it with. And Brian's got another one to come.
He's better if he's got the legs.
Hasn't got the legs. Has not got the legs.
Got a motor, but not the legs.
Oh, would you believe that?
No.
Well, how wrong can you be? Jobs take 2 demerits.
Well, it's all downhill. Up and over the crown, and then it is downhill. But he looked as though he'd given up. It's very difficult now. He's just asking. Well, he's got to play some sort of running shot to try and take the ball out. Or even just tickle the jack. He can tickle the jack, Hugh.
He's in with a shout. No, it turned away. It turned its nose up at it.
Nicholson
just 2 feet away from where it was going. It turned right and stayed out. Well, what a cracking final we've got here, Brian. This We were talking about, you were talking just now about how this is so different from a couple that we've had in recent years. This couldn't be better, could it? 30 ends of bowls played.
Well, he looked
17-19 the score.
I was just going to say he looked a goner, but he's not, you know. He's never looked a goner, Nicholson. He's been behind. There's always been a bit of a gap there for Duncan to at least get breathing space. But this crowd are loving what he's trying to do, this man from Yorkshire. He's never far away, but again, you've got to be so close to the jack with Duncan around.
Yes, that lovely Lancashire-Yorkshire rivalry. And again, Roy Nicholson finds that he has got to dredge up something special again. Tremendous correction on his first bowl. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Oh, unlucky!
They're cheering butts. We need to know. He's still on.
He's still on. Well.
Now Duncan needing two, so have a look at this. If he can remove the Nicholson bowl, very, very difficult for game, and difficult to get into the jack. Turning over is awkward because it's on a bank, it's falling from the crown. He's after it, Hugh. He's after the bowl.
It's close, it's close, it's close. I would say that's probably done it. I wonder. That was a remarkably good bowl. What does it amount to, though?
Yes.
It's one for certain. Is it two? Is it the match? It's the pegs for the match.
It's a measure for £7,500.
Yes. Well, what a finish this has boiled up to, and we have to wait. Spectators biting their fingernails. Roy Nicholson has thrown his rag off into the crowd. I think either it's soaking wet and he wants another one, or he realizes that he doesn't need it anymore.
Slack, it's two.
It is two. Brian Duncan does it again. That was an exquisite bowl that he delivered to take the jack through, to get the two that he wanted. He wins it 21-17, but spare a thought for Roy Nicholson, who fought so bravely from behind to make a real match of this. It was super stuff, but Brian Duncan, for the fourth time, is the best Masters champion.
First of all, check for £3,500 to the runner-up. We still haven't had a champion from Yorkshire, but I'm sure that he'll put that right one day. Ladies and gentlemen, the runner-up in the 1993 Bass Masters, Roy Nicholson. You said before the final, Roy, that you'd enjoyed the week. I hope the weather and the fact that you lost in the final hasn't put a dampener on it for you.
I've enjoyed it. I like to think I've given him a game anyway, and I've lost, but what the hell.
You certainly did give him a game, and I think you, speaking on behalf of the entire Crown Green Bowls fraternity, would admit that he is the toughest guy to play.
He's a one-off, is Brian. Anybody that beats Brian, they've done this stuff.
Well, you almost did your stuff today, Roy. Well done. Roy Nicholson, everybody. Thank you. Well done, Roy. Well, right now it's back in the old routine. He's won it 4 times now. The game's number one, the one and only, the 1993 Bassmaster, Brian Duncan. Check for £7,500 and the Rose Bowl. I'm losing track how many times you've won this thing.
I think it's 4 now, isn't it?
It certainly is, and I suppose it gets sweeter by the year, does it?
It gets harder by the year. I mean, I think we've had a good game, really, and just the finish, it could have gone either way.
Point was made before the match, actually, with Roy Armstrong, that even when you're playing maybe not as well as you like, you still somehow manage to squeeze out victory.
Not always, but...
Well, you always do here.
Well, this is one of the main competitions. No, I mean, I've just played a couple of balls of the finish, and at the last end, all right, I've reached up and just got the right result. If it slides through the gap like it's 18-19, and here we go again.
He's a tough cookie, that Roy Nicholson, isn't he?
Well, I went 14-7, like, we got a nice cushion of 7, and then the next minute, he obviously keeps sticking at us, and I think, well, he comes about 1 off us, really, and then you've got to start all over again.
Well done again, Brian. See you next year. I mean, that's the main thing. Not only the Rose Bowl and the money, but you qualified again.
Well, that's all right, very nice. I mean, it just takes a bit of pressure off you, and hopefully we're back here next year.
You know the routine, Brian. Ladies and gentlemen, we leave you with the 1993 Bassmaster, a man who really is back in the old routine. Brian Duncan, and goodbye.